I live in a part of North America where we've experienced a heat dome and 3 atmospheric rivers in a few months. The flooding in my area is extensive. You could consider me as a victim of climate change, but I don't want to be a victim of climate change. So I'm looking at how I can shift the way I'm being by shifting my relationships to myself and others, to climate and time. The first part of this experiment, I focused on my relationship with myself. Most of the time, like many people, my mind tends to be thinking about things that should be, as in the world should be different than what it is. I should be able to figure out what the right thing is to do. I should be doing something significant and impactful about climate change. But all these shoulds are just my ego trying to keep me trapped in a gloom and doom story. Well, enough of this stinking thinking. The world is what it is. I can respond to it. That is, I can be responsible for it. You know, I don't know quite what that means, though, if I'm responsible for it. Does it mean that I'm a climate activist? Well, I'm not a Greta. I'm just me, Shay. Does it mean I become a leader in charge of a movement or an organization? Well, I'm not. Maybe it means that I'm more aware of who I'm being in the conversations I'm in. Quite often, I notice, however, that I am still speaking and listening as if I'm a victim. So instead, as part of my experiment, I choose to stand in the vision of a future where humanity actually survives climate disruption. When I stand in that future, I begin to see opportunities to present some other ideas in the conversations I'm in. Ideas like regenerative agriculture and sharing value across an ecosystem, geoengineering, carbon sequestration, plant-rich diets. The possibilities are endless. And I find that as I presence those things in the conversation, it's not that I'm a victim anymore. It's that I'm beginning to create an opening for others to begin to see the future that I'm standing in. And in that, I'm not being a leader, I'm not being an activist, but I think I'm being more like a trim tab. The trim tab is the part of the ship. It's at the back end of the ship. You know, there's a rudder that changes the direction that the ship is going in. Well, it takes a lot of energy to move the rudder. But if you have a trim tab on the end of the rudder, you can exert a little bit of energy, and that will change the direction of the rudder and the ship. And so I'm seeing myself now as a trim tab. I can leverage my little amount of energy and effort and time much more effectively. Now, that doesn't mean that necessarily everything will change for the better in the world, or that anything will change for the better in the world. But what it does is it gives me the opportunity to not to step out of that victimhood and to let go of the rugged individualism that I've become so familiar with. Which brings me to the second part of my experiment, looking at my relationship with others. Because I know I can't do this alone. We're all in this together, and it has to be a collective effort.